Welcome to the Video Professor's series of computer learning tapes, the nation's #1 computer trainer. We'll take you step by step through learning to use your computer software. On the screen now are some other tapes available in our series. When using these tapes, we suggest you watch them in their entirety, then go back with your computer and practice each step. In keeping with the Video Professor's dedication to giving you the best lesson possible, we have packed these tapes with information and sometimes move at a pace that is faster than you will be able to follow along with as you are working with your computer. Remember, you can always pause or rewind the tape to learn each part. Now let's get started. And welcome to my second lesson on Windows 95, the new graphical operating system from Microsoft. Windows 95 is an operating system and a user interface for running all your computer applications. As an operating system, Windows 95 manages all the operations of your computer system. As a user interface, it allows you to effectively communicate with many software applications at one time. In my first lesson on Windows 95, we learned how to interpret the desktop, its screen icons and controls. We also learned how to customize our system, including the screen display, multimedia controls, and program shortcuts. In addition to those skills, we learned how to use the Explorer to perform file operations such as finding, copying, moving, and deleting files. Plus, we learned how to use the recycle bin. Viewers, to effectively comprehend the subjects in this lesson, you should have a clear understanding of the subjects covered in my first lesson. If you need a review of the subject matter, please see my tape Learning Windows 95, Level 1. I will also assume that you are already familiar with basic computer operations, such as using a mouse or keyboard to select options within pull-down menus and dialog boxes, as well as basic file structure and a firm grasp of starting and exiting applications. In this lesson, we will learn how to use some of the applications packaged with Windows 95, the Notepad and WordPad programs, the Paint program, and the calculator. As we are learning these programs together, we will also learn how to transfer information from one program to another using the clipboard. To properly follow this lesson, you will need to meet two requirements. The first and most important is you need Windows 95 loaded on your computer. The other is a blank formatted diskette. We'll save the lesson files to it to avoid cluttering up our hard drives. Now, before we start the lesson, I'd like to introduce my student assistant, Suzanne. Just follow along with her and you'll be using this program in no time at all. So, let's get started. If you haven't already turned on your computer, do that now. Windows 95 is launched automatically at boot up. Your computer may show this welcome dialog box when Windows appears on screen. It's a handy way to learn about special features in this program. If you do not want to see this at startup, you can click the Show This checkoff box at the bottom. If the check mark is removed, the tips will not display when your computer boots up. Otherwise, just click Close to close the dialog box. Viewers, don't worry if your screen doesn't have the same look and icons as Suzanne's. The elements that we are working with in this lesson are basic Windows 95 features, so everyone should have them. With that said, let's tackle a project. Time to get down to business, Suzanne. In this lesson, we're going to use Windows to plan a company picnic. All the programs we use are part of the basic Windows 95 package, no extras. However, the multi-program skills you learn here will also work with additional applications running in Windows, such as WordPerfect or Lotus or Microsoft Office. We'll start by creating a to-do list in Notepad. Then write a memo to announce the picnic using WordPad and Paint. Then we'll take a look at the budget using the calculator. We'll have all these programs running at once, and we'll learn how to move easily between them as our needs change, and also learn how to move data from one program to another. To organize all these elements, we'll begin by creating a project folder. We'll keep this folder on the desktop so it's easy to access. Viewers, if you do not see this taskbar on your screen, you will need to unhide it for this lesson. Move your mouse to the very bottom of the desktop, and the taskbar should pop up on the screen. Right-click with the pointer in the taskbar and select Properties. Click the Auto Hide box to remove the check mark and click OK. Now the taskbar will remain visible on your screen. Suzanne, we created a folder in the first Windows lesson. Do you remember how it's done?
I think I do, Professor. It's a little different from the older Windows procedure. We start with the Explorer, don't we?
Good memory, Suzanne. Let's use the right button shortcut, shall we? Point to the My Computer icon and click your right mouse button. Now select Explore from the quick menu. The My Computer icon should be selected at this time, but we are going to create the project folder on the desktop, so select that icon. We want to keep all the picnic files in one place. And the best place to store a group of files is within a group folder. So let's create one. Suzanne, pull down the File menu and select the New option. Then Folder. Isn't that easy? There's your new folder, on the list in the Explorer and also showing on the desktop. The title is already highlighted, so you can rename the folder whatever you like. Let's call this folder Company Picnic. When you finish, press your Enter key. Remember, in Windows 95, file names are no longer limited to the 8 characters required from older programs. Which brings me to something else I'd like to mention about running older programs in Windows 95. Behind the scenes, Windows 95 changes its longer file names to the shorter 8-character DOS file names so older applications can use them. It does this by using only the first characters of the long file name and eliminating spaces. For example, to be or not to be .doc would be renamed to be or tilde 1.doc. Subsequent files with similar names would be renamed to be or tilde 2, tilde 3, and so on. We don't need the Explorer anymore, so click on the X to close this program. Our Company Picnic folder is stored on the desktop. Anything we save into the folder is stored on the desktop. Now that we have a project folder, let's create a to-do list for our picnic plans. Suzanne, Windows 95 has 2 programs that allow you to edit text, the Notepad and WordPad. We'll start by taking a look at the Notepad. Click on the Start button and select Programs at the top of the Start menu. Once the Programs menu is on screen, select Accessories and Notepad. It should be near the bottom of the list. Viewers, the order and variety of accessory programs will more than likely be different on your machine.
When you say edit text, Professor, are you talking about word processing programs? And why are there 2 of them?
You could call these word processors, Suzanne, but that term covers a lot of territory. It's really not appropriate for Notepad since it's really just a text editor. And what does that mean, you ask? Well, a text editor allows you to type and edit words, but it doesn't offer any formatting options. Formatting, you will recall, is the process of changing the appearance of text. This is done by changing the font type and size, adding boldface or underlines, changing margins and alignment on the page, or any other command that changes the look of our words on the printed page. The Notepad is a text editor. It has no formatting features and is normally used to enter and edit computer commands in a batch file or a computer program file. Formatting in those kinds of files can actually cause problems when the computer tries to run the program. However, the Notepad can be used to make quick notes to yourself and anything else that doesn't need formatting right away. This is perfect for a quick to-do list. Toggle on your caps lock key, then type in to-do list just as you see on your screen. The typing starts in the upper left corner at the flashing insertion marker. When you finish, press your Enter key. Move your mouse, but don't click. The mouse pointer is the familiar I-beam that indicates a text space. That's exactly what Notepad is, a space for text. Pull down the Edit menu, Suzanne. When the menu is open, notice the bottom option, Word Wrap. This is an optional feature in Notepad. Word Wrap is the word processing feature that automatically wraps text at the end of a line without using a return. In a command file, lines don't necessarily have to fit on a page, and in fact, a new line frequently means a new command instruction. So Word Wrap is turned off. A click would place a check mark next to that option to show that it is turned on. Let's leave it off. However, we will toggle on the time date option. The computer automatically wrote in today's date and the time. The time date stamp is handy since it shows up on your printed document and tells us when the document was created. Viewers, your date and time will reflect the settings of your system clock and obviously will be different from Suzanne's. Now, press enter twice to make a new line and some space. Now, what do you need to do to arrange a company picnic? Well, the first thing we should do is write a memo to the staff informing them of the upcoming picnic. Type in the number 1 followed by a right parentheses and a space. Now type in write a memo to the staff. Go ahead and misspell memo as you see on the screen. Notepad has no spell checker, but we can use this opportunity to see how to edit text. The simplest way to edit is to backspace out the error. The backspace key is at the upper right corner of your typing keyboard. It will have a left pointing arrow and may also say backspace. Just press the backspace key to erase the incorrect letters and then continue typing. Press the enter key to go to the next line when you've finished. Now enter the number 2 followed by a parentheses and a space. We'll need to give directions to the park, so type in directions to park, Suzanne. We can use the paintbrush program to draw a map, so let's insert the words map and in this list item. Move your mouse pointer so the I-beam is just in front of the D in directions, and click to reposition the insertion point. Now type the words map and. See how the words just move to the right as you type? This is called inserting text and is a common feature of computer word processing. Move your mouse pointer to the end of the line, Suzanne, after the word park, and click to set the insertion point. Press enter to go to a new line. And on this new line, enter the number 3, a closed parentheses, and a space. Now type in the words get food bids. Later in the lesson, we'll use the calculator to total up estimated cost in this step. When you finish entering the text, press your enter key. Suzanne, let's fantasize the company is very generous this year, so let's change the word food to caterer. And we'll use another editing tool to do that. Drag your mouse across the whole word food and type caterer. See how your new typing just replaced the word you marked? You didn't even have to delete it first. Let's go on to the 4th step in our picnic planning. Move your mouse pointer to the end of the line and click to move the insertion point, then press your enter key. Type in the number 4 and a right parentheses. Follow that with a space in the words combine memo and map together. Suzanne, we've seen a couple of text editing features here in Notepad. Now I think it's time to move up to WordPad and get acquainted with some formatting features. Before we do that, let's save this file to our project folder. Pull down the File menu and select the Save As command. Viewers who are familiar with Windows 3.1 will notice that this Save As dialog box is a little different in Windows 95. The Save As window is designed to help us quickly save our files in the right place and file type. Right now, if we were to save this Notepad file, it would be saved in the Windows 95 program folder, not the company picnic folder. To change the storage destination, we must select a new location within the Save In entry box. Suzanne, click on the pull-down arrow next to this box. The pull-down menu gives us an Explorer-type view of all of our drives, plus all the icons and folders on the desktop. Scroll down if necessary until you see our Company Picnic folder. Then click on it. Now, no matter what we name this file, it will be saved in the Company Picnic folder. To the right of the Save In box are 4 very helpful icons. Right button click on the second icon from the left. This is the File folder icon, Suzanne. The tooltip indicates that clicking on this button will create a new file folder. With this feature, we can create a destination for our file at the same time the file is being named. Now double-click in the File Name text box and type To-Do List, just as you see on Suzanne's screen. Now look at the Save As type box. This feature allows us to save our file in another file format. By doing so, another application is able to easily read and use the file. The current choice, text document, is the simplest file type and is the only file type that Notepad can efficiently work with. Files saved in this file format can be read by almost any program. Click on the Save button to complete the file save task, Suzanne. The .txt extension is added to the file name as Windows saves the file to disk. With that done, click on the Notepad's Minimize button to close the window, but leave the program running. The taskbar now shows a button for the to-do list. Suzanne, we saw how Notepad works as a text editor. Now let's take a look at WordPad. It isn't quite a full-fledged word processor, but it does allow us to format text and provide us with many of the word processing tools found in Word for Windows. Once again, open the Start menu by clicking on the Start button. Once open, select Programs and Accessories. And this time select WordPad. When WordPad opens, one thing we can see very quickly is that there's a lot more choices in this window than we had in Notepad. There are more pull-down menus, including one for format. And we see 2 rows of buttons and a ruler above the typing space. The buttons on these 2 bars give us quick access to the most commonly used tools in WordPad. And the ruler allows us to quickly change a document's spatial formatting. Although these tools are quite handy, they can be toggled off to give us more typing room on our screen. Suzanne, pull down the View menu. The check marks next to Toolbar, Format Bar, Ruler, and Status Bar indicate those options are on. By default, these tools should be active. If any of them aren't active, click on the desired option name to toggle that feature on. At the bottom of the View menu is the Options command. Click on it. This dialog box allows us to tell WordPad how to handle certain file types. Viewers click on the Rich Text tab if it is not already selected. Rich text, many times referred to as RTF, is formatted text that can be easily translated by most word processing programs. By default, the word wrap selection is set to Wrap to Window. This means the text will wrap to the next line when it reaches the edge of the window, no matter what size the window is. We want our picnic memo to have a standard width of 6 inches, so toggle on the Wrap to Ruler option. Just click inside the radio button next to the option name. Now our text will word wrap to the margin settings on the ruler. Suzanne, click on the Options tab. These options control which units of measure the ruler displays on screen. The default is inches. That's what we want, so click on the OK button to close this dialog box. The flashing vertical line marks the insertion point just as it did in Notepad. Above that point on the ruler are 2 triangle-shaped markers. These mark the left margin setting. To change the document's left margin, we just click and drag these symbols to a new location on the ruler. Let's enter the first line of our memo. Type in, "Hello, fellow employee." When you finish, press your Enter key twice to give us a line between the salutation and the main body of text. Now click on this Windows Maximize button to give us a full screen view. With that done, let's take another look at the ruler. The triangle at 6 inches on the right side of the ruler marks the right margin. To change the right margin setting, all we need to do is click and drag this symbol to a new location on the ruler. If we type a line that's more than 6 inches long, the words will wrap around to a second line. This is word wrap. Let's see it work. Type the text as you see it on the screen. Do not press the Enter key when you come to the right margin. Just keep typing. If you make a mistake, you can correct it in the same way we did in Notepad. Either backspace out the error, or click your mouse on the place that needs to be changed and then make your correction. Now that we have most of our memo text on screen, let's try some formatting. We'll start by indenting the first line of this new text. First, move your insertion point just before the word "this" in the first line. Now press your Tab key. This moves the beginning of the first line to the half-inch mark on the ruler. Notice how WordPad automatically shifts the text to the next line in order to accommodate the tab space.
Professor, how did WordPad know where the tab should appear?
Good question, Suzanne. The default tab settings are at every half-inch on the ruler. When we press the Tab key, WordPad went to the first tab setting. We can set our own tab settings by clicking on a specific measurement on the ruler. Now, let's use a very common technique in formatting text, blocking. Suzanne, click and drag your mouse across the words, "Please Parrot Industries." Make sure everything is highlighted. If you get a partial selection, click outside the selection to release the mark and then start again. The selection process is called blocking. With this selection of text blocked, we can apply different formats without affecting the surrounding text. The second toolbar is the formatting bar. It has drop lists used for selecting font types and sizes. It also has buttons to quickly apply format options such as bold-facing text and changing the alignment of our text. At the left side of this bar is the font box. It displays which font we are currently using. Times New Roman appears here because it is the default font type. Let's see what happens with a font change, shall we? Click the drop-down arrow next to the font box and select Wingdings. Well, that's pretty funny, but I'm not sure the staff will understand the secret code. I guess we should use something else. Let me show you another way to select fonts. Pull down the Format menu, Suzanne, and select Font. This dialog box gives more information than the toolbar. We see that Wingdings is selected, and in the sample area is an example of this font. Let's try another. Scroll up the font list until you find Arial. That should be on everyone's system, but if you don't find it, just choose another font. Now the sample box shows letters we can understand. While we have this dialog box open, let's also make the size larger. Some of the staff are getting a little farsighted, perhaps 14 points. Click on the 14 in the size list and check the sample. That should be easier to read. The message at the bottom of the dialog box tells us that Arial is a true type font. That means our screen view will be the same as what comes out on the printer. That's good. Click on OK, Suzanne, to apply these formatting changes to the block text. Even though we can't see a real distinction between the font types Arial and Times New Roman, it is clear that having the company logo at 14 points looks a bit awkward. We still want to make the logo stand out, so let's change the font back to the default of 10 points. The text is still selected, so pull down the font size drop-down list and click on the point size of 10. With that done, boldface this text by clicking on the bold icon. Good. Now let's add a short synopsis of what, where, and when at the bottom of the memo. Suzanne, click your mouse pointer at the end of the text to deselect the block selection and set the insertion point. Once done, press Enter twice to get a new line and some space. Now type the words "in a nutshell" followed by a colon. When you finish, press your Enter key. Suzanne, let's indent the next line to give it some emphasis. Click on the little square below the left margin triangles and drag it to the 1/4 inch mark on the ruler. The little square pulls both triangles together. In all caps, type "what" followed by a colon. Now press the Tab key and type "picnic." When you finish, press your Enter key. Follow the same procedure, enter "when," September 16th, and "where," Mosquito Park. Type them as you see on screen. Remember to use the Tab key after the colon to move to the 1-inch alignment for the date. When you finish typing, press Enter after the word "park" to leave the insertion point on a new line. Let's add some more emphasis to these details. Drag across all 3 lines to select them. We'll make them bold, so click on the bold icon. Well, that finishes the text of our memo, but before we save this file to disk, let's insert a date timestamp to help us distinguish this memo from any other that might be handed out in the future. Click your mouse pointer just under the last line, then press your Enter key. Once done, click and drag the left margin marker back to the very left edge of the ruler. Our left margin is back to its original setting. Now let's enter our date time stamp. We can select this command through the Insert menu or simply click on the date time icon on the standard toolbar. Let's use the date time icon. It has a little clock and a watch on it. Click on it, Suzanne. Unlike Notepad, which gave us only one type of date time stamp, WordPad gives us many choices to choose from. We don't need anything really fancy here, so make sure the top choice is highlighted, then click on OK. The memo looks good, Suzanne. Let's save this file before we create the map. Pull down the File menu and select Save As. Here's the familiar Save As dialog box. Click on the down arrow next to the Save In box. Once the drop-down list is open, click on the Company Picnic folder. Now tab down to the text area for file name. Turn off your caps lock key and type Picnic Memo just as you see on Suzanne's screen. We want to save this as an RTF or a rich text file, so make sure that file type is displayed. I think that's everything, so click on the Save button. Now minimize this window to keep the desktop tidy. We're ready to do something fun. We have the beginnings of a nice invitation in WordPad, Suzanne. Let's jazz it up a little with a simple map. And to create this map, we'll use Windows 95's Paint program. Open the Start menu again with the Start button and select Programs, Accessories, and this time select Paint. When the Paint program opens on screen, maximize its window. Paint is a drawing program with different types of tools for drawing lines and shapes and adding colors. Before we begin to draw, let's be sure everyone has the same tools on their screen. Pull down the View menu, Suzanne. We need the Toolbox, Color Box, and Status Bar options active. So if any of these are not active, click them to add that tool to your screen. If everything is okay, press your Escape key twice to close it. The set of buttons at the left of the drawing space is called the Toolbox. Right now, the Pencil tool is selected. Suzanne, move the mouse around the drawing space. As you do, notice the mouse pointer looks like the pencil symbol on the button. To draw a line with the pencil, just click and drag this mouse shape and release it. Do that now. Don't worry about matching Suzanne's screen. We're only practicing right now. This will be a scribble page just so we get a feel for working with the paint tools. Now click on the Brush tool. It is located just right of the pencil button. With this tool selected, we are given some additional symbols below the toolbox. These symbols represent different brush tips. By changing these tips, we can change the size and shape of the brush. Click on the largest square or brush tip. The brush tool mouse pointer appears on screen as a crosshair with a block in the middle. Click and drag this pointer to see how the paintbrush works. Once again, you don't need to match Suzanne. This is only practice. Now click a different brush tip. How about one of the slanted lines? Try drawing a curved line with this tool. A thick and thin calligraphy brush. Now try the airbrush. It's just below the pencil tool. Click on that button and draw a few lines. The airbrush pointer looks and works like a spray can or airbrush tool. The paint box tools are pretty easy to use. You get a line as long as you hold the mouse button, and when you release, you can move to a new position and start another line. It's pretty easy. Now let's add some color. We'll stick with the airbrush for the moment. To change a tool's color, we must select another color from within the color palette. The default color is black, but let's see what red looks like on screen. Click on the bright red button on the color palette. With a new color selected, draw a couple of lines. Now, for those of you who claim you can't draw a straight line, there's a line tool. It's just below the airbrush, Suzanne. And select the thickest line from the set below the toolbox. And how about blue this time? Now click and drag to make a line. Release the mouse button to anchor the line, and then click and drag the mouse down again to start a new line from the anchor point. The ellipse tool at the lower left of the toolbox allows us to draw round shapes. Click on the ellipse tool, then on dark green in the color palette. Now click and drag the tool onto the paint box page. You'll notice that the shape isn't perfect. To make a perfect circle, you must hold down the Shift key while you draw the shape. It's really simple to do lines and shapes. Now let's look at filling in colors. The color palette has two overlapping squares at the left. The front color is the foreground color, which you select with your left mouse button. The other square shows the background color, which you select with your right mouse button. Let's see how to use these. Suzanne, make the foreground color pink or magenta. Click on the bright pink color square with your left mouse button. Now click the bright yellow color square with your right mouse button. Good.
Professor, can we make a solid circle?
As a matter of fact, there are two ways to make solid shapes. We'll use one now, and I'll show you the other as we create the map to our picnic. First, click on the Fill tool. It's the one that looks like a can of paint spilling. Now click inside your circle with the left button. The foreground color selected in the color palette now fills the area until it runs into a boundary. Since we have a line splitting our circle in two, only one half of the circle is filled. If there weren't a line through the circle, the entire area would be filled. Now choose another space outside the circle and click the right mouse button. The remaining page area takes on the background color. Let's check out one more tool, then we'll create our picnic map. Click on the Eraser tool. It looks like a blackboard eraser. Once it is selected, click on the largest square from the set below the toolbox. Now change your background color back to white by clicking the white color square with the right mouse button. Now hold down your left mouse button and drag the eraser across your picture. See how it erases the color in its path? If we decide we really didn't want to erase the color, we simply pull down the Edit menu and select Undo. That's a very quick tour of the paint tools. And if you'd like to pause and practice with the tools for a while, this is a good time to take a break. For now, pull down the File menu and select New to bring a clean page on screen. Answer No to the Save Changes dialog box. We don't need to save the practice scribbles. The Paintbox program remains on screen, but we are given a new blank page. Let's use this page to create a map to our picnic. First, let's draw a border around our map. This is called a bounding box. To select our box's line width, we must first click on the Straight Line tool in the toolbox. When the Line Width submenu appears, click on the narrowest line width. This line width dictates how thick or thin our shapes are drawn. Click on the Rectangle tool, Suzanne. Then on the hollow rectangle in the submenu. It may already be selected. Position the rectangle crosshair into the upper left corner of the drawing area. Hold down the left mouse button and drag the crosshair to the lower right corner. You have now created the bounding box for our picnic map. Reading a map is much easier if you know which way is north, so let's add a directional marker to our creation. Click on the Straight Line tool again. And in the Line Width submenu, select the second thickest line. Place your crosshair in the lower right corner of the bounding box. Hold down your Shift key and your left mouse button, then drag the cursor to the right about an inch. Let go of your mouse button and Shift key to anchor the line. Position your crosshair slightly above the middle of the line we just drew. Hold your left mouse button and Shift key and drag the cursor through the horizontal line to form a cross. Whoops, our vertical line is off center. Luckily for us, Paint also features an undo function. Pull down the Edit menu and choose Undo, Suzanne. Our misplaced vertical line disappears. Paint's Undo feature permits us to undo actions up to 3 steps back. If we decide we didn't want to undo after all, the Repeat option lets us reverse the procedure. Let's redraw our vertical line. Move the cursor a little more to the right, then hold down the Shift key and drag the mouse pointer an inch. Next, we need to add letters to our cross to indicate north, south, east, and west. Click on the text icon in the toolbar. Notice that a new menu appears below the toolbar containing 2 colorful boxes. If you choose the top box, your text will be created with a colored background. This color will be determined by the background color in your color selector. The bottom box allows you to create text with no background color. Let's select this one for our map text. Click anywhere in the paint area. A dotted line box appears with a blinking cursor inside. Type a capital N, Suzanne. The outline that appears on screen is the text box. Currently, our letter N is displayed in the Paint program's default font and size. However, we can change the font type and apply formatting to any text within this box. Pull down the View menu and select Text Toolbar. Once the Text Toolbar is on screen, pull down its font pull-down list and choose Arial. Then select 10 points within the Size menu. Once you finish that, click on this toolbar's Bold button to boldface the N. Now click the Close box on the Font menu. You can make changes such as font style, size and placement to your text box text as long as you don't click outside the outline. Move your cursor to the text box. Slowly move around the edge of the text box until the cursor turns into an arrow. This enables you to move the text box anywhere in the drawing area. Drag the box until the lower left corner is just above the top of the cross. Release the mouse button. Click outside the box. This stamps down the end. Now repeat this procedure, placing S for south, E for east, and W for west in their respective positions on the guidelines. Let's continue. There's a footpath running through the area where we're having our picnic. Let's draw it on our map. First, select the curve tool, then select the second thickest line on our submenu. Position your cursor about 1 inch in from the upper left corner on the boundary line. Now hold down the left mouse button and drag the cursor to the lower right corner about 2 inches in. Let go of the left mouse button. Now move your cursor just left of our new line. Hold down the left mouse button and move your mouse. The line curves according to mouse movement. When you have the curve you like, release the mouse button. This fixes the curve on your map. Of course, if it isn't what you had hoped for, there's always the undo command. Suzanne positioned the cursor about 1 inch to the right of the first line. Now hold down the left mouse button and drag the cursor to the lower right corner about 3 inches in. Let go of the left mouse button, then move the mouse pointer just left of this line. Now, while holding down the right mouse button, drag the mouse in the same curved direction as the first line. There's a pond in the northeast corner of the park. It'll make a good landmark to put in our map. Select the ellipse tool on our toolbar. In the submenu below the toolbar, select the bottom selection filled without an outline. To add a little realism, let's select the blue from our palette. Move the cursor to the right of the path in the upper half of the map. Hold down the right mouse button and drag your mouse to the right. Release the button when the pond is about 3 inches long. There's a tennis court across from the pond. Let's add that next. Select the rectangle tool just above the ellipse tool on the toolbar. Next, select the unfilled shape tool at the top of the submenu. Now select black from the palette. The line width of our rectangle will be the last one we selected. Move your cursor to the upper left-hand corner of our map. Holding down the left button, drag your mouse until the tennis court looks like the one you see on screen. Now let's add some text to identify this box. Type in the words tennis court. That caption looks a little strange, so let's stretch the text box to make the text more readable. Move your cursor around the dotted line bounding our text until it turns into a double-sided arrow. This arrow lets you reshape the box you are typing text into, even if you have already entered the text. Holding down the left button, drag your mouse to the right until the text is legible. Now move the cursor around the dotted box again until it becomes a single-sided arrow. Hold down the left mouse button and then drag the text over the tennis square. Release the left mouse button to stamp down the text. Our next map-making task is to show the picnic tables and barbecue pit that will be ground zero for Pleased Parrots Employee Picnic. Select the rectangle tool and make sure that the unfilled with border shape is selected in the submenu. Move your cursor slightly below the pond in the lower right corner of our map. Now use the rectangle tool to draw 4 picnic tables. Follow Suzanne. We'll use simple rectangles to represent the picnic tables and their locations. Adding color will be the final step in our map. Select the Fill with Color tool on the toolbar. Remember, it looks like a can of paint tipping over. Now select any shade of green from the palette. Move the fill icon to the area just outside the pond. Click the left mouse button and paint fills the area with green. While the Fill tool is still selected, make the other side of the road green. Avoid clicking within the tennis court box. With that accomplished, select a shade of gray from the palette. Move the Fill tool onto the path and click. The path turns gray. Use the Fill tool to color other parts of our map. Experiment and have fun. Now that our map is complete, let's save this file to disk. Pull down the File menu, Suzanne, and select Save As. Be sure the Company Picnic Lesson folder is listed in the Save In space and then select the file name text box. Type in the file name Picnic Map and press Enter. The file will be saved as a 256 color BMP for bitmap file. This file type can be easily copied into the WordPad memo. We're ready for the next step, so let's reopen the notepad to see what needs to be done. Click on the notepad button on the taskbar. Let's jump ahead to step number 4. We can insert the map into the picnic memo by using the Windows clipboard. The clipboard is the name given to a special memory location. Whenever you use the Edit, Cut, or the Edit Copy command, the object that you have marked is stored in the clipboard. The cut or copied object can be text or graphics, or a formula, or a calendar note, or most anything else. If you can mark it and use the Edit, Cut, or Edit Copy command, it goes into the clipboard. Clipboard is temporary memory, and any new cut or copied object replaces the previous one, and the memory is cleared whenever the computer is turned off. But as long as something is in the clipboard, you can make unlimited copies. Let's copy the picnic map into the WordPad memo. First, minimize the notepad. Before we can copy something onto the clipboard, we must select the desired text or object. In the Paint program, we have two tools for selecting an object: the rectangular select tool and the star-shaped select tool. Both are located at the very top of the toolbox. Our map is a nice standard rectangular shape, so we'll use the rectangular select tool. Click on it, Suzanne. The star-shaped select tool is primarily used for selecting free-form shapes. You can use it to cut around the edges of any shape you'd like. The rectangular select tool shows up as crosshairs when you move the mouse pointer into your picture. Position it just outside the upper left corner of the bounding box. Now click and drag down and across until the dotted line box encloses your entire map. When you release the mouse button, the selection is marked. Now pull down the Edit menu and select Copy. Your map is now stored in the clipboard. Just to keep the desktop tidy, go ahead and minimize Paint. The map has been stored to disk and is also in this window, so we can easily get back to it if necessary. Look at your taskbar, Suzanne. We have 3 different files open right now, and each one has a button that shows the file name and the program that created it. None of the programs are busy right now, but it's possible to have a program running in background and actually doing some processing. For example, you might have a fax board in your computer and leave the fax program running in background all the time. When a call comes in on the fax line, the program would answer and receive the fax without interrupting your work in another program. This is called multitasking and is one of the significantly improved features in Windows 95. For this lesson, we simply minimize the programs to keep the screen uncluttered. Click the Picnic Memo WordPad button on the taskbar, Suzanne. There's our memo. The insertion point is still flashing at the same place we left it quite a while ago. Viewers, if you've interrupted the lesson and retrieved the file from your desktop folder, click at the end of the date in the last line and press your Enter key to start a new line.
Professor, it's been a long time since we made the map and copied it to the clipboard. Are you sure it's still there?
I'm as sure as I can be. The only way it can go away is if you turn off the computer or copy something else in its place, or do a clear command in the clipboard. We haven't done any of those things, so it's still there waiting. Your toolbar in WordPad has an icon for the paste command. It's the picture of a clipboard. Click on that button, and there's your map. That takes care of the map, so now we need to tell everyone how to RSVP so we'll know how much food to order. We need to type a few more lines below the map.
Professor, I don't see my insertion point anymore. How can I type?
Very observant, Suzanne. Indeed, you do need your insertion point to add typing, but since the map's selected right now, you can't see the insertion point. Click just to the right of the map to deselect it. Now press Enter to move to a new line. We're ready to type again, so turn your caps lock key back off and type the following line in quotations. If you want to eat, it's going to be yummy, Please let us know you're coming. Press enter twice after you finish typing. We want to add some emphasis to the RSVP line, so let's center it and make the type larger as well. To center the typing automatically, just click on the Center Align button. It's third from the right, just above the 4.5-inch mark on the ruler. See how the insertion point moved to the center of the new line? The font size is easy to change from the toolbar as well. We have 10-point Times New Roman right now. Click the drop-down arrow next to the 10 and click 14. That should do it. Now type RSVP by, what date should we use? Our picnic is on Saturday the 16th, and our caterer will probably want some advance notice of the head count. So let's say folks should reply by Friday the week before. That would be the 8th. Type Friday, September 8th. Press enter for a new line and add your name and phone extension. To Suzanne at extension 69. Do we need anything else in this memo? Let's take a look in Print Preview to see how the whole thing looks. There's a Print Preview button on the toolbar. It's the paper with a magnifying glass. Click there, Suzanne. The view we see is exactly what you'll see when this is printed. This Windows feature is known as WYSIWYG. The letters stand for what you see is what you get. And with a Print Preview, you can save yourself a lot of time and paper by checking on screen before you print. I think this looks pretty good, don't you, Suzanne? As you move the mouse pointer over the page, it turns into a magnifying glass. A single click will zoom in on the part of the page where the glass was pointed so you can take a closer look. You cannot make changes in the preview view, but if you are satisfied with the appearance, you can click the print button to send this file to the printer. Viewers, if you do not have a printer connected to your computer, or if you'd rather not print this document, click Close. We've made some changes, so you should save the file again, Suzanne. Click the floppy disk button, which is the File Save command. And now I think we're finished with the memos, so you can close the file. Let's take another look at the to-do list to see what else we need to do to get this picnic together. Click the Notepad button on the taskbar. The memo is done. What's next? Get caterer bids. We have 2 possible caterers for the picnic, so I suppose the next step is to call and get some menus and prices.
Wow, Professor, are you going to tell me that Windows can make my phone calls too?
Well, in fact, we can make the computer dial phone numbers, but that's a topic for another lesson. We'll use the old-fashioned telephone to make the calls for this step, and then use the Windows calculator to add up total costs from the estimates. Now let's open the calculator and see what kind of a budget we've got. Click the Start button, select Programs, Accessories, and Calculator. The calculator is exactly what it says and works just like a handheld calculator. You either press the buttons on your numeric keypad or you can click the buttons on the screen. Since we have 2 bids, we can see both ways. The Windows calculator has 2 views, Scientific and Standard. Click the View menu, Suzanne, and be sure Standard is selected. Our formulas are going to be pretty simple. The bid from Ribs R Us was $12 per person, and we're expecting about 50 people. Let's do this by clicking the numbers, Suzanne. 12.00. See how the numbers show up on the display panel just like a regular calculator? Now click the red asterisk. That's the symbol for multiplication. Click 50 and click the equals button. There's the answer, $600. Let's copy that total onto the notepad so we'll know their estimated cost. Click the Edit menu and select Copy. Now you can also see the notepad on the screen, so just click at the end of the typing and press Enter 3 times to move down the page. Type Ribs R Us and $12 in parentheses. Then an equal sign. Now click the Edit menu and paste to put in the total. No chance of mistyping the numbers that way. Let's do the numbers for Ace Caterer now. Click anywhere in the calculator window to put it in front again. Then click the C button to clear the previous total. This time we'll use the keyboard, so be sure your numlock key is on. That's usually a button at the upper left of the numeric keypad, and an indicator light should also show when it's turned on. Now you can type the numbers just as you would on a 10-key calculator. Ace has given a bid of $550, even for 50 people, so let's find out what the per person rate is. Key in 550. The divide key on your keypad will be labeled with a slash, just like the calculator on screen, though the asterisk key may be in a different position on your keypad. Now type in 50 and press the Enter key at the right side of your keypad. There's the answer on the calculator, $11 per person for Ace. We'll use some keyboard shortcuts to copy and paste this total onto the notepad. To copy, hold down the Control key and press the C. That's the shortcut for copy. Now click on the notepad window and press the Enter key to make a line for Ace Caterer. Turn off the caps lock key and type the company name as you see on the screen, and $550 in parentheses to show their bid. Type an equal sign, and to paste the calculator answer, hold the Control key down and press V. There you are, Suzanne. Now, since you've added information to the notepad, you should save the file again. Click the File menu and save. Suzanne, you've done good work with the picnic plans, and I'm sure you'll continue to use those tools as new information comes and final details are arranged. Let's go ahead and close all the picnic files. Click the X button to close all the files open on the desktop, the notepad, and the calculator. That leaves the paint file showing on the taskbar. Right button click on the Paint button and select Close. We've been using the desktop file which has been stored on the C drive. Let's copy these files onto the floppy disk so you can delete them from your hard drive if you want to save space. We'll use the Explorer to do this. Right-click the Company Picnic folder on the desktop and select Send To. Be sure your formatted disk is in the drive, then select the appropriate floppy drive from the list, Suzanne. The dialog box will keep you posted on the progress of the file transfer. Suzanne, we've covered quite a lot of territory today. Thanks for your help.
Thank you, Professor. I feel much more comfortable with Windows 95 now, and I'm anxious to get back to working on that picnic.
Have fun with it, Suzanne, and join me soon for the next lesson, where we'll look at all the communication features in Windows 95 using the fax and the modem. And remember, you can always learn more from me, the Video Professor.